2 grand says she misses. 6 seconds later. They stopped laughing. She arrived alone. No name tag, no rank, no fanfare. Just a long wooden rifle case and hands that wouldn't stop trembling. The men of Ghost Tier 9 were already on the range that morning, the Nevada sun clawing at the cracked soil of Ravenfall Valley. They watched her step out of an unmarked government sedan like she'd taken a wrong turn at a university conference. Button-down shirt, civilian boots, hair tied back with a rubber band. Not even tactical, just careful. She signed the logbook with her left hand, and the pen blotched mid-letter as her fingers jerked. A small, dark splash of ink stained the corner of the page. Someone snorted, "You sure this isn't a clerical error? She's already shaking. Should we call Medivac now or later?" Master Sergeant Boone leaned against the supply crate and pulled a crumpled bill from his boot. 2 grand says she can't even hit the dirt, let alone a target, he said loud enough for the whole line to hear. Laughter followed. They didn't even ask her name. A junior tech lit the candle one single flame, placed exactly 720 meters beyond the ridgeline. One shot. The wax had to remain untouched. No splash, no mess, just the flame, gone. Colonel Emery Castle stood at the rear of the observation zone, arms folded. He said nothing, but his eyes never left her. She walked to the furthest bench, set the case down, popped each latch with careful precision, not elegance. Her hands betrayed her again, shaking. Slight, rhythmic, controlled chaos. Then they saw it. The rifle was strange, sleek, black, custom-built but mounted underneath was a humming, alien-looking device, curved metal. Glowing nodes, wires tight and tucked like surgical veins. Someone whispered, "That's not military. Looks like DARPA lost a bet to Elon Musk." She didn't respond, didn't flinch. She unfolded the bipod, laid the rifle down, and rolled her wrist to read the wind. The nylon streamer fluttered 8 drifting southwest, jittery. Time was short, less than 5 minutes, maybe less. The desert heat shimmered at the edge of the range. She lay prone, exhaled slowly. The world narrowed. No boots, no voices, just her. The scope, and that flicker of orange at the horizon. Then came the first shot, a soft hiss, no recoil, no sound but air cracking open. The bullet tore through 2 kilometers of heat, dust, and wind, and missed. It wasn't even close. The men burst out laughing. Boone called out, "She's vibrating like a tuning fork. Someone get her a metronome." She didn't react. Her cheek stayed pressed to the stock. Her fingers still trembling, but her eyes cold. Locked in hadn't moved. They thought it was over. But she was just beginning. Raine Marlowe didn't flinch as the first bullet missed. She simply reached forward, slow, deliberate, and began uncoupling the device mounted beneath her rifle, wire by wire, port by port. The hum faded into silence. Boone, the one who had bet $1,000 she wouldn't hit anything, had gone quiet. A few others shifted. One half-formed joke died mid-breath. Another cleared his throat, suddenly unsure of the air around him. The silence wasn't awkward. It was shifting. Specialist Ava Dorn stepped forward slowly. Her eyes caught on the slight rise of fabric at Raine's forearm. A faint mark, geometric and deliberate, peeked through, not a tattoo, not a scar, a brand. She'd seen it once, in a redacted intel file buried inside something called Spectre Protocol, a program too classified for confirmation and too lethal for denial. Before she could say a word, Colonel Castle glanced at his tablet. A biometric tag blinked green. He looked up. Lieutenant Colonel Marlowe. The name hit like a rifle crack. Heads turned. Boone stiffened. Even the heat around them seemed to pause. Raine stood slowly. No excuse, no posture. Just a nod, and that same steel stare. Trembling hands, unshaken presence. Castle stepped closer. His eyes drifted past her to the edge of the range. The candle still stood. wax untouched. But the flame was long gone, like the doubt that had filled this place only moments before. "We need to talk," he said. Raine said nothing. She closed the rifle case, tucked the module inside, and walked past them. And for the first time that morning, Ghost. Tier 9 stayed silent, but none of them knew the story. Not really. Not the reason her hands shook. Not what happened in Karaat. 3 years ago, Operation Dust Veil, a hidden chemical lab buried under a grain depot in central Narava. The intel was right, but the gas lines were already leaking. Inside the lab, no gloves, no mask, no backup. Raine turned and sealed the pressure valve with her bare hands. 4 hours later, they found her unconscious, lungs scorched, nerve fibers damaged. She wasn't supposed to survive, and if she did, she'd never hold a rifle again. "You're lucky you can still write your name." They said. She didn't want luck. She wanted control. What she built instead was NeuroSync V3, a self-stabilizing rig that read her body's tremors and balanced them with real-time counterforce. A digital nervous system for a soldier whose own had failed. She sent the schematics anonymously to Argus. No reply. Applied to 10 units. 10 rejections. Only Ravenfall let her through. Not because they believed in her, but because they had no idea who she was. This wasn't about proving anyone wrong, or ego, or payback. It was about something simpler, proving she still belonged on the line. She wasn't broken, she was re-engineered, and the next shot wouldn't miss. Raine didn't move after the miss. She just reached into her side pouch, pulled out a short fiber cable, and plugged it into a hidden port above the rifle's trigger guard. The module on her rifle gave a soft chime, then changed pitch almost like it was breathing, adapting. "What's she doing?" someone whispered. "That's not standard gear," another muttered. "That thing looks alien." Specialist Ava Dorn inched forward. Eyes narrowed. She wasn't watching the rifle. She was watching Raine's hands. The tremors hadn't stopped, but they had changed. They were following a rhythm. Raine lifted the bolt, reset the chamber, and slid in a second round. She closed her eyes. Inhale. 2 seconds. Exhale. 3. The device pulsed faintly in sync with her chest. Then, without warning, she fired again. No one laughed. The shot was close. So close it made Boone lower his binoculars with a curse. She corrected. "Mid-wind shift," Ava whispered. "On the fly," someone else added. Even Colonel Castle had moved 2 steps closer, though his arms were still folded behind him. Raine didn't celebrate. She just exhaled and loaded one last round. This time, she adjusted nothing, didn't twitch, didn't blink. She just waited. A wind gust kicked up along the ridge. Sand peeled off the surface like skin. Someone reached for their goggles. Raine stayed still. She fired. The suppressor whispered. Then, silence. Not hesitation, not tension. Vacuum. 6 seconds. 7. The flame, barely visible in the far distance, vanished. Not wavered, not flickered. Gone. The candle remained upright. Wax untouched, but the fire extinguished as if pinched out by an invisible hand. No one spoke. Boone's hand dropped. The crumpled $2,000 bill fell to the ground without resistance. Ava Dorn turned. Her breath caught in her throat. She wasn't looking at the target. She was staring at Raine Marlowe's sleeve. It had shifted when she'd ejected the final round, just enough for something to show. Etched into the skin beneath her forearm was a symbol. Not ink, not scar. Branded. A clean-lined insignia of intersecting triangles, flanked by fractured rings. One Ava had only seen once. In a classified index titled Spectre Protocol Operator Tier Black Level, behind her. Castle finally stepped forward. "Name," he said firmly. "Your real one." Raine stood up. Calmly, she unlatched the rifle's core module, slid it into its case, and zipped it shut without ever lifting her eyes. She spoke only once. "Lieutenant Colonel Raine Marlowe, Spectre Tier, Retired. The entire range seemed to shift with that sentence. Castle's mouth parted slightly. Boone looked like he'd swallowed a bullet. Ava stared, not in disbelief but recognition. Like a memory too big to hold just fell into place. No one cheered. No one clapped. But something had changed, not just the shot. The way they looked at her. She wasn't the woman with shaking hands anymore. She was the one who'd just erased a flame from nearly 2 miles away with a pulse she could barely hold, but a purpose that never wavered. And that was only her opening statement. They called it in whispers, the ghost of Karaat. Now she stood before them, not a ghost, but something far harder to define. Colonel Castle broke the silence first. You're not just some observer with a twitch. He turned to the stunned group. This is Colonel Raine Marlowe, Tier Black, 40 confirmed precision kills over 2,000 meters. Phantom Valor recipient, presumed KIA 3 years ago. Karaat. The last word froze the air. Boone looked down at his boots. Ava Dorn swallowed hard. Even the junior techs in the back straightened as if realizing the woman they'd mocked had once held entire units together from a rooftop half a world away. No one asked questions. No one had to. 3 days later, Ravenfall Range was under Black Flag lockdown. No press, no reports, just orders. Marlowe and Castle stood at the front of the briefing chamber, the room humming with restrained adrenaline. Behind them, the screen displayed a grainy satellite image, a man in desert robes flanked by 2 armed guards. This, Raine said flatly, is Dr. Lior Sadek, former weapons chemist for the Naravan regime, now freelance untethered, funded, and very much active. She tapped to the next slide. Biohazard barrels, radiation symbols, a single, faint schematic of molecular bonding. He's the one who designed the agent that crippled my nervous system 3 years ago. He didn't just change me. He perfected the formula. The room tensed. Castle nodded toward the map. The mission was clear. Infiltrate a suspected lab site at the edge of the Argessa Desert. Capture Sadek alive. Recover all materials. Simple. On paper. They dropped in under blackout. Boone led the point. Dorn managed recon. Every comm channel looped back to Raine, now watching from a secure command bunker 60 miles away. Her voice guided them, precise, controlled. Like the rifle she once held. Building perimeter secured. Boone whispered through comms, "No movement inside. Proceed." Raine answered. They breached the lab. Cold concrete, dust, the hum of power, but no guards, no alarms, just emptiness. And then a laptop, still warm, a vial, suspended in a shock frame. Raine's breath caught. "That's not the lab," she muttered. "It's bait. Get out." But it was already too late. The sensors screamed. A red light blinked on every visor airborne agent detected. "My mouth tastes like metal," Dorn said. Voice strained. "My hand. Something's wrong." Boone groaned. Dropping to one knee, Raine's fingers flew across the console. She triggered the scrubbing systems, flooded the suits with filters. But her gut knew. This wasn't the same compound. This was worse. In the feed, Castle staggered and dropped his rifle. "I can't grip evac now." Raine barked, "Drones inbound. Ava, get them out." And then another feed lit up, a shack, off-grid. No heat signature before, now someone inside. The drone zoomed in. It was Sadek, sitting at a desk, calm, watching the camera. No mask, no gloves, just a faint smile. "You've been breathing it for 7 minutes," he said, his voice cold and precise. "Fascinating. Isn't it? This version skips the lungs entirely, absorbs through the skin, straight to the cerebellum." Raine's voice broke protocol. "He's not in the lab, he's watching you." Boone raised his weapon with trembling hands. "Shut up," he hissed. Raine's eyes scanned the vitals on every operator's feed. And then she saw it, Boone's hands. They were shaking, exactly like hers. 3 years ago, they made it out barely. The drone evac sliced through our Jessa winds, lifting the Ravenfall team and their prisoner into the sky. But something had already changed. Raine didn't need data. She saw it in Boone's fingers, in Dorn's posture, in Castle's clenched grip. The tremors were here. They were all becoming her, back at Ravenfall. Medics scrambled bio-isolation, toxin mapping, no cure, only control. Raine didn't rest, didn't eat. She rebuilt Neurosync V3 from scratch, tuning it to the new strain faster, deeper, more chaotic. Will it work? Someone asked. She didn't look up. It has to. 2 days later, Boone stepped up first, hands shaking, breath tight. The rig adapted in real time. One-shot bullseye. Then Dorn, then Castle. One by one, they proved a truth. The tremors hadn't ended them. They just forced evolution. That evening, Castle handed her an envelope. From the Pentagon, they want you to lead an adaptive combat integration. Your own command. She held it quietly, hands trembling, voice steady. I'll do it, but they come with me, as instructors, not test subjects. He nodded. She wasn't just recovering. She was rewriting the rules. 3 weeks later, Pentagon observers lined the Ravenfall range. They didn't laugh when Boone grouped 3 shots at 900 meters, didn't blink when Dorn hit a moving drone at 1,000 hours. But when Castle, his tremor, the worst, drilled a dime-sized target at $2,000. Silence, approval, unanimous. The next morning, Raine stood alone at the edge of the range. Boone approached. Wanted to show you this. A photo. Worn. 2 soldiers. One with Boone's eyes. My brother, Dean. Force Recon. He started shaking after Kandahar. They pulled him, said he was done. 11 months later, he was gone. Raine looked at the photo, then the sky. It's too late for him. Boone said, but not for the next guy. Not if we make this real. She nodded. Once. Quiet. Later, they gathered at the memorial wall. Granite, cold, etched in silence. Boone stepped forward, placed the photo at the base, didn't speak, didn't need to. Raine stood beside him, hand on stone. This wall used to mean finished. Boone murmured, but not for us. Not anymore. She turned toward the valley and stopped. Out there, exactly 720 meters away, someone had placed a single candle. Not for show, not for test, just there. Raine stared at it, then whispered, we don't need steady hands, just the will to aim again. And no one disagreed.